Do it from my phone. Okay, we have 39 people watching us. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna wait for 1 more minute just to make sure we have everybody that can come online, and then we'll start our session. Also, welcome everybody who has already joined us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Okay, we're gonna start. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the third Alumni Webinar Series. Today, we are really happy to have Musthafa and Atul join us and share their personal stories. Uh, First of all, I want to thank all of the people who went out and voted on the Twitter poll, because when we decided that we wanted to do a session focused on how to prepare PhD applications, how to apply for it, look for universities, we didn't know where to start. And I thought, like, let's just take a poll. We ran through the idea, we posted on Twitter, and it was such a big response. We were like so happy to see it being successful, and we know exactly where we wanted to start, which was Europe. You guys helped us to figure out where to start, and the next thing was the hunt to find the speakers. That's where we have Musthafa and Atul who joined us, and they were so kind to help us. They're going to share their own personal stories and struggle, as well as they're going to share the tips and things that you need to be mindful about when you're applying for any European university. Of course, we cannot span the entire Europe because that's too many countries, and that's going to take a lot of work. So we're going to do with 2 countries, Belgium and Austria, during this live session. Uh, Today, apart from me, Srijit is going to be the co-host, and he's going to take over the second session, or I'll say the second half of the session. Ashwin is going to be our question answer guide. So if you have any question throughout this entire webinar series, please feel free to post on the comment section of this live. Ashwin will look through it and he will send it to us so that we can ask to our respective speakers. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. We definitely have a designated slot for Q&A, but if there is something that's pressing, just ask away. You don't have to wait for the last minute, just ask away. Okay, so we're gonna take Ashwin, Srijit, and Atul off from this video right now. We'll catch you guys later, and we're gonna start with Mustafa. Okay, so how are you, Mustafa? How are you doing?
Fine, fine.
How is the weather there?
Yeah, it's getting sunny here, and it's
Oh,
still sunny, and it's 5:30 now.
oh, that's perfect, perfect. So, Mustafa, you're gonna share some slides, right, today for the presentation?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. So while you do that, I'm gonna give a quick intro about you.
Okay.
Uh, Mustafa is my junior, and he joined ISER Mohali in 2012. So he's part of the MS12 batch. He was a chemistry major, and he graduated in 2017. He did his final year project with Shantanupal, but he was just not a studious guy. He also was involved in Curie Club activities. He enjoyed bird watching sessions. He was also part of the cultural festivals. So he is an all in all guy, and we always appreciate an all in all guy. So, Mustafa, welcome to the webinar series. Thank you
Yeah,
for joining us, and we're gonna learn from you. So,
yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. Hope you all are safe and doing well from the pandemic. Yeah, I'm from MS12 batch, and I was a chemistry major, and I graduated at 2017. And currently, I'm in Europe doing my PhD at TUVN in Austria, and I started my PhD at 2018. So it's my third year going on now. Uh, so talking about first, yeah, let's start with ISER because yeah, that's what united us in the first place. So yeah, it has an important role in my life, like shaping who I am today. So basically, I'm from Trivandrum in Kerala. So as soon as after the entrance exam, as soon as I got the result, I don't know which hit me hard, like. Passing the entrance or like having to travel all the way from Kerala till Punjab, like around 3,000 kilometers. Yeah, so that was a bit mixed feelings for me. So yeah, in first years in ISA, like I got to know more many people from different parts of the country, uh, and I got to know that like I was kind of like an easygoing guy. Like I didn't work much during my school days, but in ISA, the whole game changed. Like I had to like work really hard because everybody I see there is like the ace of the deck. Like they were all good, so yeah, I had to keep up with them. And another thing about ISER is the interdisciplinary exposure that we got, or the research exposure that we got. So that means like uh, during some random talks or seminar which I attend here or which I attended earlier. So even if it's not really my topic, it's from different part of science. Everything is still in my grasp. Like I could just I knew what's going on. I could just go back and just check. So I was not far from anything. So it's like maybe it's because of the core year or the like the curriculum in the core year or the masters, because we had to learn all the subjects and different fields of science. And yeah, because of I think it's mainly because of that. uh, yeah, and other than this classes and all, yeah, as Kasturi said, like QD club, I was like a active participant or organizer in many events of QD club and other club events. And yes, bird watching sessions, like yeah, like I was very much interested in that. And cultural festivals like Onam, etc. Like like it's all part of my memories in ISER. Like it kind of like opened up so many things in me. And yeah, and other than that, like yeah, after classes, courses, after the time in ISER, the next thing which comes in my mind is the internships which I did. So usually I had like a really much interest in chemistry, so I thought I will explore different internships, explore chemistry through different internships.
That's good.
So I did internship in organic chemistry, like synthesis and all. I did internship in biochemistry. I did internship in computational chemistry. And for my last, like my fourth year internship, my last one I did with Dr. Shantanu Pal, whom I joined just after that for my master thesis. So, like, I kind of got like a head start for my master thesis, I would say. It's because like I very much liked the topic we worked on during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, coming to the final year, I would say that was like entirely different from the rest of the previous years, because most of the time I spend I spend at the lab, not with my friends or hostel or in the class. So I got to know more about chemistry, how to do chemistry, or the actual people doing science, things like that, how it is in a lab,
Yeah.
like a proper
So,
research lab.
so if you're gonna summarize like your overall research experience that you got in ISER Mohali,
Yes.
what are the, I'll say, like two key things that you learned or like that you didn't know about research before you joined and did research as a ISER Mohali student?
uh, One thing is, like research, you don't have to always be in a lab. Like you don't have to like handle chemicals or like do something to become a researcher, because there are like theoretical opportunities in research, computational opportunities in research,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't had much knowledge about before coming to ISER. And the second thing is the like the interdisciplinary aspect of the research. So earlier I thought if you took chemistry, yeah, that's it for the rest of your life. You are like a uh, chemical scientist or like a
Yeah.
chemist. You can't do anything else. But it's not like that. Like nowadays everything is interdisciplinary. If you
True.
have the taste for science, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are definitely here to learn about your experience in applying for PhD position in Austria. My one question will be before we go into a presentation is what time did you try started applying? Was it while you were in your fifth year or you started when you were in your fourth year?
I started applying when I was in my fifth year only,
Okay.
because yeah, I asked my seniors and all. Yeah, they told me like the ninth semester is like a good time to write this kind of GRE TOEFL exams.
Mm-hmm.
And also they told me, yeah, just focus on your courses and all, get good grades
Mm-hmm.
during the first 4 years. And the fifth year, you will get time to prepare for this kind of English
Got
proficiency
it.
exam or other exams
Sure.
uh, outside your lab work hours.
Okay.
So yeah, I just went with that, and
Perfect. So
it kind of worked.
yeah, sorry for interrupting you here. Yeah, so okay, so I will let the section be your floor,
Yeah.
and please uh, share your stuff story.
Okay. Uh, yeah. So I told you, like, I'm currently working at Technische Universität Wien, like Vienna University of Technology. And yeah, this is my campus, like the only the first few buildings you see, not the entire thing. So yeah, so it's like located in Vienna, which is the capital of Austria. The few first few buildings you see are the actually the part of the campus, and the building you see on the left side, that's like a church, like Carl's church. So you can see, like, yeah, science and religion, it's kind of very close in Vienna. And yeah, so uh, it was founded the university was founded in 1815, like 200 years ago. And by at that time it was known as Imperial and Royal Polytechnic Institute of Vienna. So it didn't had all the faculties or the subjects which we have now. It only had, like, mainly focusing on engineering, which are like mining and related fields. That's one faculty, and the second one was related to construction, like civil engineering. So, like, for many years it went on like that, and during 1900s it increased the number of faculties, from like it got mechanical, electrical engineering, all these kind of most of the faculties which we have now. And it also got the title of university. So yeah, it became Technische Universität. And currently we have around 28,000 students enrolled in different degree programs, master program, PhD research, and we have around 5,000 staff. And in overall ranking, like, we are 191 in QS global world ranking website. And like even in other international ranking websites, we are always within like 400 in most of them. And other than my university, TUVN, in Vienna, like, there are many other universities and research institutes, like we have University of Vienna, Medical University of Vienna, Veterinary Medicine University. And just outside, just close to Vienna, we have IST Austria. So it's a very newly started institute, like few years ago, I would say. And so the what I'm trying to say is, like, city is kind of like a international, and you can find different institutes, labs in different places in the city. Another interesting thing to notice, in this city, in Vienna alone, there is like 5 ISER Mohali alumni, just in Vienna. So, like, yeah, in Europe, like, there are many in all across Germany, yeah, Paris, Belgium, yeah. And yeah, like, going a bit close to the university, I can show you some pictures. Yeah, this was our main building, or the first building. Yeah, currently this is now the administrative building. And this is the our main library. But actually, every faculty or every department has their own library. This is just the central library which controls all of them. So in each building or each department, they have their own library. They have different library for mechanical engineering, they have different for technical chemistry. Yeah. And this is where I'm working. This is my institute or my department. So it's basically chemistry and mechanical engineering in this building. Yeah, so Technische Universität. So main thing is, main difference from other universities is that this kind of technical universities or Technische universities are mainly for engineering or related fields, just like we have IITs in India.
Okay, didn't know that. Beautiful campus, by the way.
Thanks. Uh, yeah, and so yeah, let's just get to business.
Yes.
So, spoiler alert. So before I start saying anything or introduce what I'm gonna say, like let's just take a minute and ask ourselves, like before. So I'm gonna focus only on like PhD, like how PhD in Europe, mainly in PhD in Austria. So before going that, like we'll just take a minute and ask ourselves, like, are we a PhD material? So or because for PhD we need a lot of hard work, dedication, patience, self perseverance. Yeah, so like it's a lot of effort. So yeah, so you just ask yourself. You don't have to convince your teachers, your parents, your friends. You just have to convince yourself, like, why do you want to do a PhD, or do you have the passion or enthusiasm for that subject, or do you have the love for research or desire to contribute to the academic knowledge? Like, if you can convince yourself, or if you get the answer for these things, I think, yeah, you are really much a PhD material. So yeah, just ask yourself before going or before applying for any this kind of PhDs. So yeah, so back to business. So in Europe, there are like mainly two kind of two types of PhDs. So one is the normal, or what we consider normal or the traditional way. It's kind of like the individual doctorate positions or the individual doctorate programs, in which like that's the common thing which you see in most of the European countries. Like you apply for a uh, job position or a PhD position under a lab or a professor, and yeah, one professor supervises you, and you will get a thesis or you'll write the dissertation, and yeah, you will do the research, and yeah, it will end in a thesis. So this is kind of similar to what we do in India also, but like just it's only difference in the application. But this kind of PhD offers you great deal of flexibility, and you can choose in which direction you want to lead your PhD, because you are the boss of your research, because your supervisor just is there only to provide you resources, and yeah, like is there only if you have some doubts and anything. But yeah, the PhD, the project, it's all on you. So
Okay.
that means you have to take a very much personal initiative and responsibility. Uh,
So I have a quick question. Do you do coursework during this individual PhD program, or is it like just research, but you're all in on responsible for the entire research project?
the coursework is very less, or there is not at all, it is not at all mandatory in this kind of individual doctorate. And this is common, and it depends on the university or the country. I'll be
Okay.
going much detail about that in my coming slides.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead.
and like coursework, like comprehensive exams, these are sometimes there is nothing or very less, or depends on the university, you
Mhm.
could say that. Yeah, and back to the slide, like the second type of PhD is the like the structured PhD program or a doctoral school kind of PhDs. So in that, like in Europe, it's very few. It's not that common. You can only find like two or three programs in each countries, except in Germany, because Germany, I think this kind of Max Planck Research School, they most of them they have their own this kind of doctoral programs or doctoral schools. So the main uh, thing about this kind of PhD program is that you will be there will be like a set of investigators, PIs, supervisors. They will take a bunch of PhD candidates, and so these professors might be in a similar topic or a similar field, or maybe maybe in different universities, but it's all part of one doctoral school. And they have everything planned from the first year till your last year, like each year what you have to achieve, what courses you have to what extra soft skills you have to get, what programs you have to do, what courses you have to do, if there is any comprehensive exam, when it will be. So everything is planned. So
Okay.
so you apply for the program, and they will interview you. They will when they take you, you will get to know all this, and you will have to like reach each milestone, like it's like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So everything is planned. So uh, you don't have to worry about anything, but the thing is you don't have that much flexibility or that much freedom to do most of the stuff. Like you will be it's kind of, I think, similar to what you see in US or something, like this kind of doctoral programs.
Okay.
And yeah, advantages of PhD in Europe. So usually it takes very less time than India or America, usually 3 to 4 years. And here, doctoral candidate, like in most of the Europe, like doctoral candidates are treated as early career researchers, or we could say like an employee of the university, and also as a student. So you could take advantages of both. Like for example, you could take student discounts or student concessions for public transport, or and you can avail other discounts like a student. And also you can use the title like a employee. And another good thing about Europe is student mobility and exchange program, because the European Union, the countries in the Europe, internally they have very less border control, and so it's easy for each research group to collaborate between universities, even between countries. So most of the time you get chance to go to another country or a collaborators university to study something or do some experiment there, or spend some time there to learn their stuff. So these are all encouraged, and these are all kind of paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the universities you can get additional training or for your soft skills which are related for your project, or you can get another other skills for your career developments. These are like, it depends on the university, how good the university is. And but these are all available in the university itself.
Okay.
And as I said, like doctoral candidates are treated as early career research. That means you will be entitled for health insurance, pension, employment insurance, because they take a part of your salary as tax and this kind of social security before you receive your salary. So you are entitled for this kind of insurance and pension and unemployment benefits.
Okay. That's good. That's really good.
Uh, yeah, another. So I think I missed one thing about the fees. So cost of like PhD program or the fees. So in Europe, most of the countries there are no fees, because it's paid by the government. We just have to pay like a small part for the student organization maintenance or the university maintenance, which is very small. And also it depends on the university. Like I'm talking with respect to my university. And but the system is kind of similar in most of the countries, like Germany, Europe, Switzerland, etc. And
Oh.
So the cost of PhD program, it's very less, even for international PhD students.
Oh, that's great. That's probably was very helpful when you moved there and economically, because moving to any new country can be expensive, and
Yeah,
with
that
all these
that
fees.
itself is like a economic burden, like your first time going there, because you have to take care of your flight tickets, your accommodation and all, and if you have to pay a huge sum for the admission also, then yeah, like this is kind of, yeah, a relief.
Okay.
Yeah, but this kind of fee, it depends on each universities. Like usually, as I said, like there is very little or no fees at all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go back to, yeah, what are the things you need for doing a PhD, or like what are the things you should keep in mind for a PhD in Europe. So first thing, like the requirements or qualification for a PhD application, like your master degree, CV, cover letter, SOP, recommendation. What I will do is I'll just hold this for this slide, like for the next slide, and I'll just briefly go through the other points,
Yeah.
because we will discuss that in detail, because that's the main thing we are here for.
Yeah, so actually, good thing you brought it up here. Anushka Shaha, who's watching this live, she asked this question: is master's degree mandatory for applying PhD positions in Europe?
Uh, Master, because in Europe you are like, as I said, there are like two different types of PhD programs. For the individual doctorate program, what I mentioned first, they advertise a PhD opening, and
Mm-hmm.
you need to apply to that specific program. If you want to join, they might have listed all the requirements, and most of the time, like almost 100% of the time, master degree in a related field is necessary.
Okay. Okay.
But
So that's a good
sometimes
question.
for the structured PhD program, they would say that for the first 2 years you might do some coursework, so this can be counted as like a master's degree. So you just have to do a after this coursework, you just have to do a small research work,
Mm-hmm.
which will be your thesis, master thesis. But
Okay.
that's not very common in Europe. Most of the
Okay.
times you will require a master degree when you are joining. I mean,
Okay.
for application, it's fine if you are just doing your masters, but when you want to join, you definitely need
The
that in
degree.
hand.
Okay, that's good. Actually, on just that topic, Nandan actually has asked a question that because you highlighted that there is the individual PhD program and then you have the structured PhD program. So for the individual part, I think this question is relevant that European PhD typically will want you to start the project right away. So, which means you have to be really sure when you apply for this position that you want that
Yeah,
kind of work to do, right?
yeah.
Okay. As far as for the so my quick question: are you in the individual one or are you in the structured program?
I'm in the individual PhD
Okay.
program.
So, just if you have an idea, like how much pressure is it on the people who are in structured PhD with the coursework and the research? Because the deadline, is there a difference in deadline? Are they also getting the PhD in 3 to 4 years or longer?
Uh, Usually that also takes around 3 to 4 years, or maybe 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
uh, depending on the university or that country.
Yeah,
Like, uh, you,
but
you
it
you
can be
can't
pressed.
you can't get a like a clear
Mm-hmm.
model of this
True.
structured because it differs in different school. But the
Got it.
overall thing is, they will ask you to do some. They will have a list of courses, and they will ask you to pick some courses, and yeah, simultaneously you will be getting like a lab rotation. You will get a chance to do research in like
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 labs. So these all happen within the first 2 years, and
Okay.
usually from your third year onwards you can start your PhD.
Okay. Okay. So similar to what happens in, I will
Yeah,
say, US, because that's what we
yeah,
also
yeah.
have. Okay.
But
So,
sometimes you can also directly go to a like in that structured PhD program, you
mhm.
directly go to a professor like a to a lab and start working there.
Ah,
Simultaneously, you do the courses.
okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. Okay. So let's go to your important slide.
So the requirements and qualification I'll talk in detail in the coming slides. Next is time. So time required, time for the PhD. So as I said, it's usually 3 to 4 years, and that's a common time frame in Europe. And sometimes you can also get an extension of 6 months or 6 months to 1 year, depending on your how good you are and the funding, just to finish the work and write the thesis. Like you can get a small extension. So yeah, it's mainly 3 to 4 years plus few more months, I would say. And thesis topic, so for that individual PhD program, and uh, since you are applying for directly to a lab or a PI, thesis topic is kind of fixed, because you are directly applying for a particular research topic. So yeah, that's most of the time it's fixed. But you should ask more in detail during the interview or before you join, to know more what about what you are gonna do. And for example, for this structured PhD program, since I told you, like a group of supervisors will be taking care of you, and you'll be joining that one of their lab, so you'll get to know what they are doing during this lab rotation and all. So yeah, like in that case you have a choice even after you join the this structured PhD program. But as I said, this kind of structured PhD program is very less in Europe. So
Okay.
it's usually the individual PhD program that people are mostly applying to.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. So I have a quick question from our comment section. Is the structured PhD in Europe similar to the integrated PhD that happens in ISER Mohali? Is there a similarity? Is there a difference?
I would say like there is a similarity in like the overall structure. Like
Structure.
people, like you have to get selected, you have to
Mm-hmm.
do some courses, you
Mm-hmm.
have to do maybe like a comprehensive exam in
Mm-hmm.
the end before you join a lab. And but yeah, like yeah, there are some similarities, but I wouldn't say it's all the same, especially the time frame.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So because we are on a time constraint, Mustafa, I'll let you have the floor right now and go through your presentation.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
please, people, keep on asking questions. We'll try to answer as much as possible.
Yes, yes.
So Mustafa, go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt you anymore.
Okay, no problem. The next thing is funding and salary. So, since PhD students are seen as employees, they get work contracts, and in that work contract it will be mentioned like how much is your working hour, or which is the tier you are employed in, and depending on that working hour or the tier, you will get the salary. If you have more working hour or more a higher tier, you will get a higher salary. But usually in most of Europe, the if you normalize the expense and the salary, it's kind of same, because in some countries the expense will be high, there you will get a higher salary, and in some other countries where the expense is low, there you will get a bit lower salary. But if you normalize the salary with the expense, it's I would say it's kind of similar in all of Europe. So you don't have to much worry about that. It will be more than enough to sustain yourself and even your family. And also you can also apply for external funding, like funding or scholarship like DAD program, in which you if you uh, win that scholarship opportunity, so you are entitled for like a for the scholarship. That means you have more possibility to get more possibility to join a lab, because they don't have to worry about your salary, because people are happy to get a student who they don't have to worry about to pay. So they are like very happy for people like that who comes who comes covered. And next thing is teaching requirements. Since most of the PhDs here are employed by the university, sometimes you have to assist the teaching duties, or you have to monitor the exams or supervise laboratory, like in case of a like in case if you are in physics or chemistry. So these are the things the university would ask you to do in turn for providing the salary, other than doing research. So but these are all like not that much hectic job, or this is just one day in a week, or and only during semester days. So like it's not much hectic. And also sometimes you get like depending on your professor, if he has a third party funding, like a funding outside the university, sometimes you don't have to worry about any of this. So I'm employed by a third party funding outside the university. So my professor got a grant outside the university from the Austrian Science Foundation. So I'm employed by that, so I don't have to do any of these teaching requirements or anything. I just have to uh, work in the lab, do my stuff, that's it. And coursework, as I said, like there is very little or no coursework at all. But sometimes to get the degree from the university, like depends on the university, they might ask you to take a few credits of course, just to enhance your soft skills, or just to just to make you as a student in their university. So that's just like 5 to 6 courses in the whole PhD span. uh, and also like that's only few hours in a week, so that's also not much. And most of the times you don't, it's not mandatory at all. Like it depends on the university, like it depends on that working contract. And comprehensive exams, like as I said, for this kind of individual doctorate or that kind of PhDs, you don't have to do a comprehensive exam. Like you are directly employed for the PhD project, and you can start working as soon as you reach there. So yeah, there is no need of comprehensive exam. But in this kind of structural PhD programs or doctoral schools, you might have to do as the that program says. Like, but it's all really planned. So you will get to know even before you join, if you have to do coursework, how many coursework you have to do, if you have to do a comprehensive exam. Usually, this comprehensive exam is just a presentation about your work which you are gonna do. That's it. Yeah, and further, what are the requirements for the PhD application? So first things is finding a position or finding a college program or a PI. So the main way you could do that is check the vacancy page or the career page of different universities, or there are many websites like this which I have listed, where uh, people advertise their open positions in their lab, or university advertise their doctorals about their doctoral school, which you can find. These are the common sites, most common sites which they advertise. So you can find a position which kind of suits your research taste, and you can apply for it. And the next thing you might need is, as I mentioned before, master degree. It's kind of obvious, but I would like to stress this, because the thing is, during this time of like a pandemic, we don't know when we get our degree, because during my time, like I already got my degree in hand during in the end of May. But I don't think the current 50 years of ICER so far got that degree or have been done with their degree. But the thing is, like when you're applying for a program, you don't, it's not necessary to have the degree in hand. You only need the degree, like they will tell a deadline, you just have to send the degree before this deadline, or you just have to send the degree before joining the school. So you just have to keep an eye on that deadline, so you be sure that you have the degree before that deadline. Next thing is the TOEFL, GRE, IELTS, like these kind of English proficiency examinations. Usually there is kind of like a unwritten rule, like GRE is necessary for US, TOEFL is necessary for Europe. I also followed that. I also wrote TOEFL actually during my ninth semester. And yeah, because I got a lot of time to prepare for that exam. But most of this kind of individual doctorate where the PIs directly advertise their position, it's not really mandatory for TOEFL. If they ask, then you might need to show that. If they don't, then like it's just you can show it, but even if you don't have, it's not necessary. And doctoral schools or this kind of structured PhD programs, they might ask either TOEFL or GRE. And IELTS, it's not that common in Europe, like so far what I have seen, because I haven't met anybody who got employed because of this IELTS.
Okay,
And
so quick thing. I just saw it in the comment. So most of these professors in Europe, they advertise PhD position on Twitter. Is that true?
yeah, they also advertise in Twitter,
Oh,
who are like very much social, like who are in this kind of social media, they kind of, yeah, advertise in Twitter also. Because
okay.
yeah, my group, they are also very much kind of they give very much important to outreach activities, this kind of social things. So they
Mhm.
have their own Twitter group, like my research group. So they share this kind of interesting stuff, open positions of the collaborators. So yeah, like if you know some groups, it's better to start following them in Twitter also, like if you want to join that group, so you can get updated with that group if they have an open position.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you were talking about CV and cover letters.
Yeah, so the next important thing is the CV cover, CV, which is the first thing the professor sees about you. Like they don't see you directly, they just see you through your CV. So it should give a best impression about you. So I would say, like, to keep it in short, I would say try to list all your education, achievements, and publication. I mean, list, not write everything in paragraphs. Just list them. uh, and also don't make it a very big CV, like few, like 5-10 pages. Keep it short, like I would say maximum 3 pages, that is including the referees. So I mean 2 pages for your CV things and 1 page maybe for your referee, like your references. And next thing is cover letter. So when you are applying for a PhD, you are putting all these documents in a form of a mail and sending it. So you have to write a cover letter, uh, so that the professor or those who's responsible in hiring you sees that cover letter and opens that application. So you have to make sure that the professor will open that application to see your CV and all. So, or you could always use this cover letter as a means of asking a professor if he has a open position or a vacancy in their lab. You could also do that. But some professor, they kind of ask it explicitly in their requirements, PhD requirements, like you should attach CV, cover letter, and all. And some things to keep in mind while preparing a cover letter is keep it always keep it in short. uh, don't don't call them like sir or madam, like it's not very much seen in Europe. Just call them their name with their title, like doctor or professor. um, and in the cover letter, try to mention about your research interest, like mention, not write in detail, just mention about your cover research interest, so that if it matches with what they are looking for, they would be eager to like go through the whole thing. And so that you have a better chance, like better visibility. And also, if you are inquiring for a PhD position, like usually you can also do that. Like if you like a lab very much, you can directly contact that professor, write them a cover letter, attach your CV, and ask them, yeah, like it would be nice if you could, if there is any open position in your lab, or if there will be a open position in the near future. So they will let you know if they are interested in you. So since like if the professor has an open position, they will get around like a hundreds of email. So you have to kind of make your email more visible to them. So that's why I told you to like maybe mention your research interest that might match the professor's research, what they are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you are inquiring, don't mass email, like don't mass email the whole chemistry department. Usually what happens is like during the office hours, they might get together and might end up discussing about you and
Oh,
making fun of you. So like,
yep.
yeah, like just if you are inquiring, just stick to a professor whom you like like whom research like interest you more. So that like, and always attach your CV if you are inquiring. And next thing is the SOP. So this is where you give a in-depth information about your educational background, your internship, your master's project, your research interest, things like that, so that the professor knows really about you. So this is where you become elaborate. So in short, I would say the SOP should contain about yourself, your background, educational background, what experience do you have that make you a good candidate for their program or for their lab, why are you interested in this PhD position or a PhD program, and what are your career plans. If you could explain these four questions in the SOP, that's pretty much it. Like that's what you need to do.
Okay.
I'll just repeat it again. Maybe if you want to note it, you can. Like about yourself or your education background, like what, how the schooling, your masters, bachelors, things like that, and experience you have. So that means like your internships, your courses you took, things like that. And why are you interested in this PhD position, or why are you interested in this PhD program, and your future career plans. Just explain these two, these four things, and yeah, that's SOP. And usually SOP, like these all depends on the requirements. Like if when you go through a PhD position advertisement or a doctorate school advertisement, they might need more or they might need less, but these are the standard things you would see. And next thing is letters of recommendation. That is like those like kind of since you are applying for academic position, stick to some professors that you know from ISER or that you have done internship with. Also, before putting their names in the CV, it's always better to ask them. Just ask them like, can I add you as a reference for my application? In before using their names, like that's like a uh,
Okay.
very
Yeah,
good.
Mustafa, we need to move. Sorry, but we need to move a little faster. Could you like, wrap up so that
Yeah,
we
yeah, it's
can?
kind of done.
I'm sorry. I just didn't
No,
want to
no
interrupt
problem,
you,
no problem. Sorry, I took a bit more. So yeah, publications, it's not mandatory at all, but it's like a bonus if you have some. So, but
but.
it's not mandatory at all in most of the applications. Yeah, and yeah, once you have done the application and you might have got some positive responses, So the next question you might get in your mind is like, is the university good enough? Should I join them? Should I wait for more options? So in that case, just keep these things in mind. Like check their group webpage, research focus, publications, collaborations, etc., and try to like evaluate them like before you join. And you could always, next thing you could do is check the ranking of the university, because like more rank, like if the university is top, that means they have more resources, more funding, etc. You can use the websites like this global world ranking, Shanghai ranking, etc. One personal tip I would give is look for universities within 500 world ranking. Or you could always ask your seniors or alumni. They they might have somebody who they know in that university or maybe in that group itself. So if you have some like confusion, you could ask them always. And next thing, if even if you don't get any positive replies, that doesn't mean you are not good enough. Like there is no deadline for looking for a PhD person and applying. Like you just have to keep an open eye, and you need to prepare yourself well. And even if you get an offer letter, like you should give a response, even if it is you are accepting or rejecting within like 1 or 2 days. That's kind of, otherwise it doesn't seems good. So yeah, that's it. So if you have any further questions, you could ask now, or if you have something later, you could always mail me or find me in Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, anything.
Yeah,
uh,
we'll be
I'm in all this.
Yeah, we'll be sharing your LinkedIn link in the chat so that anybody wants to connect with Mustafa, they can. If they have further question,
Yeah.
that he can answer. It's great. We're gonna try as much as possible. I'm gonna take
Okay.
a quick uh, moment
Sorry if I took a bit more than I expected. So, but thanks for
here.
organizing this and giving me this opportunity.
It's a pleasure. No, I think you did a good job in explaining things in very detail. I think most of the things even I didn't know, because I've never applied for Europe. But yeah, time is always a big factor. We cannot do anything. We all have only 24 hours. But
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna share your LinkedIn profile here on the comment. Go ask him more questions. We'll try as much as we can, but we might not be because of our time constraints. So go to our Facebook page, post your questions there, we'll answer there as well. Okay, so we're gonna say thank you to Mustafa, and now we're gonna invite Atul and Srijit. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so thank you, Mustafa. We will catch you in some time after for our Q&A round. So see you. Next up, we have Atul, and Srijit is his very close friend. So he's gonna do the honors and introduce him, and I will leave for a moment.
Hi Atul. Hi everyone. Atul, are you? Am I audible to you?
Yep, I can hear you.
Same here. I hope everyone else can hear the same. It's my pleasure to introduce Atul, or Atul Singh Arora. He was my batchmate, a great friend, and still one of my best friends around. And Atul has almost completed his PhD at, I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to say just the Free University of Brussels. It has a French name, and I'm not good at French. And Atul was a physics major and has expressed his love for math and physics from a very early uh, part of time since I've known him. Also, he was really good at all the other subjects I know, and he did a great job. He's been my lab partner in chemistry labs, and it was always a pleasure to work with him and his excellent skills, and extremely proficient in everything that he does. Before Atul begins on his detailed discussions of the applications of PhDs in Europe, we would like to address some of the questions that were asked in the previous session. And I think Atul, this is a little different from what we usually do, and I think Atul might have some insight on these questions. There were two questions asked by Anish, and one of them was about switching from masters in mathematics to a different subject or something which is more related to computer science. First of all, before Atul answers that, I've seen a lot of people do that. Adarsh Prabhakaran, who's handling the logistics of this webinar, he himself is an informatics PhD. And he did not, obviously it's not a part of the majors that ICER offers. I know people from ICER Pune in my university at University of Colorado who are in CS, applied math, a math PhD. My roommate is a math PhD from maths MS from IT Kanpur, and now he's a PhD in the business school. So all that works. And Atul, as I know, is extremely closely working with computation and math and very interdisciplinary when it comes to the frontiers of physics. Atul, do you have a take on this idea?
I think I would agree with what you were saying. I think if you have a master's in a subject, which is like, for example, math, physics, like the more quantitative ones, I think you can quite easily move around. You just have to make sure that the place where you're applying, you can convince them that you're genuinely interested and you're not just vacillating between different options. I think that's kind of the idea.
That's fairly what I thought. And the second one was a question on the impact of COVID-19 on the fresh admissions into EU and US. At least from the US side, it's a bunch of different orders and rules have made it a little gray. As far as I know, a lot of it is not yet decided. Universities that are giving a hybrid or in-person teaching are still open to people coming in. Online ones have a little glitches, and I'm still not sure if the consulates of the United States have opened up in India. What about Europe, Atul? Do you know much about it?
Right. So there are a few things. One is that the number of people who were awarded PhD scholarships within Belgium, that number was reduced because of the COVID situation. Otherwise, I think that there are going to be repercussions of a similar sort, that the number of people that get accepted is going to be smaller. I'm also going to talk about this a little bit more in detail, so I don't want to preempt anything at this point. So that was one thing. The other thing about the consulate, so the US embassy here as well is closed. So you can't really get a visa for moving around, and all of these things are indeed impacted. And I think it's anybody's guess how long it's going to take. So yeah, that's all I can say at the moment.
Okay, perfect. And I think Anish had one more question that was really answered by Musthafa, but still just to ponder upon that idea was, does prior research or publications, are they mandatory? I think Musthafa answered that pretty well, but I think it's always good to have some research experience with you when you're applying for PhD. Do you agree with me, Atul?
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. I thought it was fairly general about that. So without further delay, we are already running a little behind schedule. I'll give the floor to Atul to go ahead with his presentation and his ideas on applying for a PhD and moving to a postdoc, a slight insight that he can also give us to a different country. So why don't we go ahead, Atul?
Thank you so much, Rajat, for that extremely kind introduction. It's completely undeserved, but okay. Right. Let me first begin by thanking all the organizers for this wonderful initiative, because we didn't have anything of this sort when we were at ICER, so I'm glad that this is being done. So I was in the MS11 batch, and I majored in physics. Yeah, sorry for the animation. I just got carried away with Google Earth. So, right. And now I'm doing a PhD in Brussels. So it's at ULB, University Libre Bruxelles. So my French is also still quite poor, as you can see, but at least I can kind of pretend to say the name. Right. So this is the university, and as already Musthafa mentioned, it's going to take, normally it takes 3 to 4 years. In Belgium in particular, it usually takes 4 years. And right. So yeah, so my talk is basically divided into 2 parts. The second part is extremely short. The first part is also not too long. What I intend to do is just tell you the experience that I had, like my trajectory through all of this, and not really explicitly say what you should or shouldn't do. I'm sure you can glean it from what I'm going to tell you. Right. So ICER Mohali for me was like one of the most cherished times of my entire life. I think I had a great time. It was because I was getting paid to study. So it was kind of remarkable. And we had labs and libraries, which were sprouting up every which way. And there were lecture halls, which air conditioned, and we had amazing, cafeterias and everything. It was very nice. The professors were witty, sharp, and they were always keen to explain whatever it is that you want to understand, as long as it's related to what they're teaching. Even outside of that sometimes. And I had some of my peers were essentially unimaginably smart. Okay, I have to say this, Shidit, if I start speaking too fast, which I often do when I get nervous, please let me know, and I can slow down. Right. Okay, so so I spent a significant part of my time at ISA on just studying, because I was, and still am, quite slow. So it took me a while to understand things properly. And but I was, so it took me a while. I was also fortunate enough to have made an incredible set of very close friends, which played and continue to play a very important role in my life. So I encourage you to invest in that. I think it's completely valuable. And so also try to make sure you get some exercise, because I think that helps you stay efficient overall. Okay, this is the one piece of advice, I think, which was probably the most important throughout my academic career at ISA, which was this: that you cannot blame your poor knowledge of a subject on an incompetent teacher. And this was said by no other than our beloved Arvind sir. Right. Okay. So now moving on to the PhD experience. I'm at ULB, as I said. And so if I had to summarize it in one word, it would probably be exhilarating. So it's, again, I'm getting paid to think. So that's already an insane thing. And so as you may have already guessed, I'm doing a theoretical PhD. So I don't really have to go to the lab or, touch equipment and break things. So that's kind of nice. Depending on the kind of person you are, of course, you might enjoy doing it. So this is my thing. And it was sort of like a high stakes gamble for me, because you have no idea what would or wouldn't work, and you just go ahead and you have faith. It's kind of surprising you need faith for physics or for research. Okay, now the one advice here which I felt was extremely useful was the following. So when you're working on a problem and it doesn't budge for a while, then you know that many people have tried it for roughly that much time and then left it. To get the answer, you have to push longer. So this was something that kept me going for a while when things were kind of not working. So this was a very quick summary of my feelings and overall experiences at the two institutes. Right. So now I intend to give you a little bit more, a few more details on my summer internships and my academic record, so you know what to. How it was in one particular case. So my first internship was at ISIT itself, and I did it under Professor Kapil, and it was on the subject of symmetry. I've also indicated my CPI towards the end, so you can keep track, and you can see I was not excellent by 8.5 and so on. It was very hard, and I worked quite hard. I mean, it was very difficult for me in the first 2 years. So if you're facing difficulties, I mean, don't feel discouraged. It's just normal. Okay, 2012, I got through a place called NPL, so that's the National Physics Laboratory in Delhi. This was thanks to Professor Arvind. He had a contact there, and I talked to him, and he agreed to do it. There was sort of an experiment. It was an experimental project, and I spent some time, but I kind of knew after that I did not really want to do experiments, because I was jealous of people doing general relativity and things like this. Right. 2013, I had applied to a lot of places, and I got rejected from each and every one of them. And it was kind of disappointing, because some of my friends had gotten to fancy high-profile places. So it was kind of hard, but okay. So I spent it at ISA, and it was not bad. We learned, we worked on quantum simulation, and it was fun. But again, just to say that it was not always all rosy. 2014, I finally got a position in Germany. So this is my first international internship, and I was extremely happy for this. I'm fortunate to have gotten it. And this, at the end of it, led to a publication. So if you do get an opportunity, try to put in the effort that you can hopefully reach a point where you can show that you succeeded at getting some results. It's helpful, even if it's not a publication. 2015, we were suggested, so that was, you can see, as the last year, so that was the 5th year for me. So in the last year, we were recommended that we continue working in the, like, I think Arvind told us to consider spending the 5th year summer on the thesis, because that helps you make progress. So this is what we did, and this also, the thesis eventually also led to sort of publication, but it took a while. I mean, this I did not get before my master's. This happened like during the PhD. So
I agree with Atul. I'll just interrupt him. Like my undergrad summer project from 2013 got accepted in 2019 January after 3 rejections as well. So just keep pushing it. If you have something which is hanging, you feel it's promising, it might get accepted, and a publication never hurts.
Yeah, thanks, Srijit. Yeah, I didn't know actually you also had this thing, so it's good to know. Okay, cool. Right. So yeah, oh, and of course I wanted to say like the final CPI, just so you don't have to sit and average these things, was eventually it got a little bit better. So I was kind of happy with this. Right. Okay. So now I come to the applications, the PhD applications. So these guys, these organizers, they had like an entire set of 15 or 20 questions that they handed to me, and I had to go through them. And so this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to try to at least address some of the questions, and I hope that they make sense. So the first question was when I started preparing all of these for all of these applications. So for me, I started preparing for the general GRE a little bit earlier because my English is quite poor, because my grammar is like, it takes a lot of effort for me to memorize things, and my grammar wasn't up to the mark. So I started like essentially from the third year and onwards, started memorizing words, and I spent considerable time during since the fourth year summer project and so on. Okay. Also, when you're applying, depends on what you're applying for, right? Of course. So in this case, you have for the US, most of the programs are structured, and they have their submission deadlines between September and November. Starting September, and they go on to a little bit further.
I guess so. I'd just interrupt you for a second. Many applications, including can go till like January.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I should have probably, I kind of messed that up. So indeed, so I was just saying that start keeping an eye out for applications starting from September, so that you don't miss out on anything. And indeed, as Srijit pointed out, they can go on till January and so on. Right. So this is for the structured ones. As far as the European ones are concerned, they can be quite flexible, but again, you have to keep an eye out for certain structured ones, because you don't want to miss them unnecessarily. So for example, my Belgian position was completely flexible in the sense that I wrote the email in June 2016. So I graduated in 2016, and I wrote the email 2016, right? She graduated in 2016, right?
Yes,
yeah, 2011, right? Yes.
May 2016, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I sent an email in June 2016, and I started the position in October of 2016. So you can see that sometimes it can be quite close, but I got lucky. You shouldn't do this. It's not recommended. So try to do it sufficiently early, and it should be okay. Right. So the location, for me, the location was probably the last priority, and I can tell you this because I actually thought I was applying to Germany when I ended up applying to Belgium. So yeah, my geography, and I'm kind of a robot in that sense. I don't care so much. But if you're a person that cares for going out, or for sports, or for hiking and all of these things, or for culture and these things, then of course it would play a role. But that would depend on So this I cannot give you any specific advice on. Perhaps Mukherjee can at some point afterwards if he's up for it. Okay, so yeah, and I'm sorry I keep saying Mukherjee and MOOCs and all of these, because just we are buddies and I forget that this is sort of a live thing, so please forgive me for being a little informal. Right, okay, so applications, CV and SOP, I think Musthafa did a wonderful job, so I can kind of be a little bit more lax here. Right, so the applications, I try to customize all the applications for each position. So as you said, there's no point sending mass emails, so you try to make sure that they actually read it. So, and the way they know that it's worth reading is when they have they see things that they are working on in your emails. Also try to be systematic. I try to be systematic with the deadlines, so that I can allocate proper time for each application. Otherwise, they can be overwhelming. And also it helps for the referees, because at the end of it, they're going to give you the references, and they also need to have some timetable to be able to do it properly and comfortably. Right, SOP. So the one important thing, I think Musthafa already mentioned the basic things that you should consider in this. One extra thing I can say probably is that it's worth asking your friends to look at it, and you look at it for your friends to make sure that it comes across well, and that when you know too many things, sometimes it can be hard to convey the idea. I mean, it's hard to make sure. Okay, well, you understand. I mean, exactly what I'm doing now. Like when you kind of know what is to be said, you don't say it very well. It sounds ironic, but it can happen. Also, there's no harm asking your professors, right? As far as the CV is concerned, again, I think Musthafa kind of mentioned everything. I can share the link to the CV that I used to use. So if that's of any help, this I can do towards the end, right? Okay, GRE, TOEFL, IELTS. IELTS. I don't even know how you say it. IELTS. Wow. I never took the last one. I just took the GRE and the TOEFL. Right. So the general GRE for this, as I said, my vocabulary was horrible. Like, it was really poor. And so I had to put in a lot of effort to kind of improve it and get it at the level which is needed. The math was quite straightforward, which is going to be for you as well. But for me, I had to practice a little bit and to basically improve my accuracy and speed, which is not that easy. Subject GRE, okay, I did practice. I got a horrible score, which essentially partly explains why I didn't get any offer from the US. I'm preempting. I'll show you the rejection list as well. But that was, yeah, so this you have to keep in mind if you're applying for a physics or computer science. I don't know about computer science, but for physics, for certain, they want a subject GRE score, and it has to be good. For TOEFL and IELTS, this I was, so for a lot of places, you can just get a waiver, so you don't really need to take it. It's good to have it. And I don't think it takes too much effort. The exam is quite simple, and if you practice a little bit, the spoken part, I think you can get around it. It's not hard.
I think I have one little input about TOEFL or IELTS. Practice talking in a room, because the exam is held in such a way that you have other people talking when you're trying to listen in. Like, you're in the listening section. So that's one tip, just to make it a little more informal.
Yeah, no, thanks. I did not think of this, because when I gave the exam, I think it was reasonably okay. I think the headsets were reasonable. I mean, they were kind of blocking a good amount of noise, but indeed, I can imagine this could being a problem. Yeah, thank you. That was nice. And keep doing this. I keep interrupting. It kind of keeps it less robotic and more human. So that's nice. Right. Okay. So the next thing was this programs and PIs. Right. So it always helps, in my experience, to write to your prospective supervisors in advance. So you can kind of get a handle on how many vacancies they have, and the kind of funding they have, and so on, and if there's a match or not. Also, if they do not answer, don't be surprised. I had to send multiple reminders sometimes, but do them with sufficient space in between. Like, if you send them too often, of course, it's not going to be the best idea. And in Europe, primarily because the number of structured programs are fewer, you have to actually rely on this method for getting positions. In my experience, I don't think it has changed very significantly since. Right, and also try to ensure that the group that you're applying to is actually active. It's not that they're prestigious because they did great work at some point, that they continue doing good work, and that you're a good fit. Of course, these are platitudes, but anyway. Right. Now comes the cost. So for the US, it can be a little bit expensive, because I think the GRE, TOEFL, general GRE, all of these, I think each costs around 5,000 to 10,000 rupees, if I remember correctly. I might be off, but you can get the numbers of the
text. It was a little above 10,000. It was a little above 10,000 for each exam.
Okay, so it's a little bit more than 10,000. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have a poor memory, and
also because of the exchange rates were pretty bad then. It's worse now, so I think it's around 10,000.
Wow. Okay. So there you go. So it's about 10, 12, I guess, for each exam. That can be a bit expensive. Applying to specific places also costs around, I think, 5, 10. Maybe this is also maybe 10, 12,000 now. I don't know.
Yeah, it also depends. There are certain universities in the US, certain exams which are free. The applications are free. Just need to
exactly. Yeah. You're right. I think I also received a postal letter from one of these universities saying that you can apply for free things like this. I don't know. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a scam, but right.
The bigger private and the good state universities, the public universities, they will ask for a certain amount of money that they would take towards applications.
Yeah. And I also felt very indignant when they started asking, they ask you to pay for just sending the scores. For me, this was completely outrageous, but apparently that's normal at this point. And also, I think one good thing is they try to keep a list of places you want to apply for, because I think when you go in for writing these exams, you can send 3 or 4 scores for free. And it's good to have the list of universities where you intend to apply, so you keep it in mind. So that was one extra impromptu thing I wanted to add. Okay, for Europe, mostly it's much cheaper. So for instance, in Belgium, it was entirely free because I was just exchanging emails, and that doesn't cost anything. But for other places, also this was the case. There were a bunch of web forms and things like this, which seems to work. However, there are exceptions always, right? So for instance, Oxford and Cambridge have a fee, and I think it's comparable to the ones in the US. But there are many in the UK also which are free. So Europe is usually a little bit cheaper in that sense, in my experience, at least seem to be. Right, now the list of rejections. So I applied to a lot of lots and lots of places. This is a representative list, I guess. I mean, it's not an exhaustive list. And I had applied for doing a PhD in gravity. And I'll talk about this in the upcoming slides. Also for the US, I had applied for. Oh, Shaisa, what is that? Right. Okay. Okay. So and for the US also, I did not get any offers. I had applied to I think 5 or 6 places. I don't remember. And of course, MIT was one of them. So everyone gets a rejection, unless you're Shweta, of course. I mean, that's another thing. But she got an acceptance from I think Cambridge, Oxford, and MIT or something like this. So yeah, the few people get to reject MIT. I don't think. No, she accepted MIT. In the end. Yeah. She's at MIT. Yeah, fancy people. You'll probably hear from her at some point. Okay, cool. So now the list of acceptances. This is quite short. So I had an acceptance from ICTS in India, and that was pretty cool. I had actually accepted the offer from them. Then there was also one from TIFR, but this was in astronomy, so I wasn't entirely keen on going there. And then finally, I got one from ULB, which is the one I ended up taking, which was in the field of quantum information. I also had some other acceptances, but they didn't come with funding. So this can happen in in the UK. There were lots of universities where they would just say, you are admitted, but you have to find your source of funding. So that's kind of irrelevant. Okay. They also asked me to have this BuzzFeed 5 things that you did right and wrong, something like this is one of the questions. So I was like, okay, let's entertain this. So the first thing maybe that I want to say, shoot, I forgot to turn on the timer. Mooks, how am I doing on time?
You are at 23 minutes right now.
23 minutes.
We have enough time. Don't worry. We can go on for 10 to 12 minutes. Don't worry.
Oh shoot. Okay. I'll try to be.
You're fine, Atul.
You're fine. It's very informative to know about the rejections because your case is very specific. Because even despite publications and things, you can go well. It's very important to hear about that. You might have a great CPI or CGPA, but it might even your focus is very important. That's very important.
Exactly.
Don't worry.
Okay. Cool. Right. So a bunch of things that I did right, I feel, I don't know. So one of them was I tried to develop some expertise, as it's as already alluded to by Mooks, which was okay. So I was trying to become good at doing something, which was quantum information at that point, and I, at that point thought, it's too easy. I want to do something more interesting, and I want to do string theory. Not a good idea. I mean, if you're developing an expertise, you should try to stick to it. It kind of helps. Also, I'd apply to institutes at various levels of prestige, right? So you diversify your chances. So, it's kind of a good strategy for managing your risks. Also try to avoid conflicts, which is something I try to do so that, if I don't apply to so of course, if you're applying to MIT and things like this, everyone's going to be applying, so that's fine. But if you're applying at relatively lower ranks, then try to not make sure that you don't apply to the same department, because there's no point canceling out the competition. So this is the things I think I kind of got right. The things I got wrong were the following. I applied exclusively into the area of quantum gravity, even though I didn't even have a single course in general relativity. So that was a big mistake. Should not have done that. I should probably have also specialized in the area which I wanted to apply, which I already kind of mentioned. The second thing which I think I entirely messed up was I did not read any books. I mean, this is something that I got wrong from ever since I started school, right? I stopped reading books outside of academia, I'm saying outside of the academic books that I needed to read. And this hampers a lot. It's one thing to memorize words, but it's another thing to actually, be able to understand the language well enough to be able to do those things. So it took a lot of effort to do it, right? Okay. Alumni advice and network. So what I had in this was, so for us, as I said, we did not have this sort of an interaction with our alumni at our time. So we had something called the OpCell, which was, so there was supposed to be the opportunity cell, and they try to collect all the programs and all the deadlines that exist so that, you do not miss out on these. And it was kind of helpful. Then we spoke to professors and so on to find out if they had links and connections that we could write to, and this also helped us at various instances. So I am kind of almost done, right? So that was the experience. Now these are some of the lessons, and this slide, this is going to be one more slide, which is the following. So if I were to go back and tell myself a bunch of things, these are the things that I'm going to tell myself. And so what I've done is I've written it down into a document. So I'm not going to spend or take too much of your time. The link is here. You can take the QR code, or you can take the link. I can put it in the chat, whatever, doesn't matter, right? So basically it tells you what you should do when you're in the first, second year, kind of, then what you should consider doing in the third and fourth year, what to do in the fifth year, and then once you have the acceptance, how to go about it, and some things which are specific to Belgium. So I wrote it down because it was getting a bit overwhelming to say everything. And I think it'll probably be more useful in that format. Right. So I think I'm done. I hope I did not exceed my time too much. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So about Belgium specific questions, we had a couple of questions from people on the live stream about language barriers. I know Belgium is a trilingual country which uses, I think so, Dutch, German, and French.
Wow, that is impressive. How do you know all these things?
I went for a summer, the same summer as you were. So, I learned that Belgium speaks 3 languages. Did you have any difficulties in like learning and courses and communication with people on the streets?
That's a very, very relevant question. So indeed, of course, if you were in the UK or an English speaking country, it's kind of easier to just talk, because you can just go and talk. Here, it's actually, Belgium is not so bad. I think France is a lot worse when it comes to the language barrier, because they can be slightly obnoxious. Maybe I hope I don't have any French people watching. Anyway, I mean, it's true. I mean, there's especially people from Paris, they can be a bit stuck up and so on. Anyway, but yeah, otherwise Belgium is very nice. People usually speak English. I mean, if you're in the metro or anything, you can. I mean, it's okay. It's not going to be like the perfect level, but it's quite close. If they're Dutch speaking, they're going to speak very good English as well. But if they're French speaking, their English might be. I mean, you can have some fun. I mean, it can be entertaining a little bit. But yeah, so it's not that hard. And it helps to, of course, learn the language. And I think in Europe, I think it's one of the fun things you can do, because it's an entirely different culture. So you can try to, learn the language, and, you have all these activities that, you can meet new people who are also trying to learn the language, and you have a lot of cultural exchanges and so on. And it's nice. Yeah, I don't know if I answered that question correctly enough.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
There's just one more question that we have pondering on. I think so Musthafa touched upon the part where he talked about the salaries and so on and so forth in Vienna.
Right.
Do you think there's a pay scale that compares well within the countries, and what are the benefits you think you have with the stipend in the program, rent, food, so on and so forth?
Right. So I think I kind of agree with what Musthafa said earlier, which is that so of course the salaries vary from country to country. But they're usually in keeping with the expenses. So if the place is expensive, you're going to get paid more. One thing to keep in mind if you're applying in France, however, this is the other way. So in France, Paris is ridiculously expensive, but you get the same pay. I mean, so you can choose to live outside of Paris and do your thing. So you can save quite some money, or you can pay the tax of being in Paris and have to spend a lot on things like this. So that's kind of how it works, because it's anywhere too crowded. So yeah.
And there's a final question that is about you really did not interact with your PI. Like the people who come to the US in a structured PhD program, they get a few months rotations or a few months to talk to different groups and have a chat with other PhD students and then join a group. So that advantage definitely counts in that you're not joining a group where you are like completely like work to death or something, or you do not have a very good relationship with your PI. How did that work out for you? Like, how did that relationship work out with you and your PI?
Right. So for me, okay, so let me say 2 things. One is that in Europe, normally the culture is not as intense, in the sense that you're not like supposed to be working all the time. Like they value your personal time and your time to spend in activities and holidays, and they take their vacation seriously and things like this. So that's kind of nice. Not to say that they don't work hard. When they're working hard. I mean, there's no denying. So there's that part. The other part, of course, which you said, is a major disadvantage of being in a system where you're committed to one person and one project. So this is a serious drawback relatively, because it saves you time, right? I mean, because if you're going around and doing your coursework and you're going with different people, and if you, for instance, know exactly what you want to do, it can be frustrating that why do I have to do so many courses again? I already did my master's, and why do I have to do this? And I don't really need that subject, and so on. So yeah, there's always this option. But for me, I think I didn't really have a choice when I had my office. So I don't think I was the one choosing at that point. But if you are, then I think it might actually help to be in a system where it's more structured, because you get more exposure, and you also find out how other people teach, like at different universities and so on. So I think, from what I've heard, I think it's really useful to have the other system.
It scared me to death to apply to Europe just because of this fact that I might not have a great relationship.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. No, it can happen. Like if your PI goes against you, it can be difficult. Of course, they have mechanisms for handling this. So if this happens, like try to reach out to whoever's like at the higher level of hierarchy and they can try to sort it out. And usually, yeah. So if you think something is going wrong, try to get advice from like professors and students, and like don't think that you're the one who's at fault always, because this can also happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can personally say that from my own experience when I was looking for postdoc job, that just because you probably don't have a flowery relationship with your PI, that doesn't mean your career is over, that you cannot go and find another place. Because when I interviewed my current boss, she was very well aware about my situation, and all I had to do was perform and show her that I was a good worker and a good scientist, and now she's happy and she doesn't care what anybody else says about me. you know so I want to thank both Mustafa and Atul for this really informative session. I know we are way beyond our time limit, but this was required. Every single information that both of you guys have given is so relevant and so important and in so much detail that it will probably help a lot of students who are watching now and people who will come back and watch this session. We're going to do a quick, I'll say, rapid fire question round. I'll not take more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
So the first question is the okay. So what Rishabh asked, what are the prospects of joining an industry after PhD in Europe? Because I think a lot of people do have that career plan.
So Atul is
Whoever,
already reserved on this with
yeah,
Caltech. I believe
Atul.
Mustafa is better handled to take this
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, if I may say, like in Europe, like there are many startups, many industries, many cities which is like focused just on industries. So there are like very much options available for like graduates. Like even after masters, like you can really apply for like research R&D positions, research associate positions, and even after PhD you can apply. But since I'm coming from like a chemistry background, I from that I would say like there are many companies related to chemistry, to material science, and yeah, Europe is always open to this kind of fields. Yes, there are a lot of opportunities.
Perfect. Another quick question I'm going to ask, and we'll probably wrap up the session after this question, is funding is being a constant question that's been asked in this live session. We know about that because I think a lot of ISER Mohali students know about that because we have so many people who apply for that summer internship. Other than that, I think most of you did address a little bit. What are the easy way to find funding, like external funding, like example for that? Do you have Atul? Is there something for
Right.
Belgium?
Yeah, so okay, I can give you my example. So I actually put the details in the document that I
Yeah.
flashed. For Belgium, the way it works is that they have a national science agency or whatever. It's called the FNRS,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to apply and you get like grants for 4 years and so on. The catch, however, is that you have to have somebody behind you, in the sense you need to have a promoter, and you have to write like a research proposal which is quite precise. So you have to say exactly what you intend to do, and it has to be quite technical, and you have to specify how it would proceed and so on. So how that's relevant to a student in India would be that you would normally first need to find somebody who's willing to work with you for applying for this grant, and
Mm-hmm.
often they have their own money for shorter periods. So what happened in my case was that my boss had money for about a year, and he called me over, and then he was like, once you come here, we can apply for more funding, and there are the many options that you can
Okay.
get. So usually the short answer is to try to write to professors and try to get them interested. They
Okay.
would either have their own money, or they can help you find what sources of funding lie ahead.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. I have to take this question. This is gonna be, I promise, the last question. So because you started this conversation, Atul. Shashwat asks, publish or perish in the USA is the normal attitude, what people think. Whereas Europe offers a more comfortable research environment. Agree, disagree, and one rebuttal. You get one line rebuttal.
Right. I don't know about the US because I've not really worked there. In Europe, normally I think it's kind of similar. I don't know. But in Europe, normally, as I said, people value their family time and the personal time, and all of these things are valued. And when they're working, they work hard.
Okay.
So it's nice, and they're serious. Like they spend a lot of time teaching and a lot of time, doing research and things like this. I'm sure it's essentially the same in the US.
Yeah.
But,
And
Mustafa.
Yeah, I would also agree with Adul. One thing, I don't know how intense that is in US. Second thing is, it's not intense in Europe. Like I said, like each group has their own Twitter account and all. So if you just go through that, you will get an idea
Will.
how they manage their social time, family time, work time. So like it's all they keep it very much separated.
Okay, perfect. And we will answer this question, the US edition, when we have our webinar on the US edition. So, thank you for everybody who joined us. Thank you to our speakers, Mustafa and Atul. We are really, really happy. And it was a pleasure to meet with you guys again and talk to you guys again. This is an information for everybody who's still online and who will later come and watch this video. You can leave your questions on our Facebook page. Just search Aithar Mohali Alumni Association. The link has already been on the chat. We will update the information of this video. You can access from there. LinkedIn profiles of Mustafa and Atul will be shared. That's okay, right?
yeah, and just to add on before, like about Atul has a great blog, Sesa. You should keep keep updated. And he has a good web page. He's pretty active on these things. His
Yeah.
outreach activities are pretty active. So outside physics, you should always go ahead and check that out.
Yep.
Uh,
All
and
the
the
links
US
will be
answers
shared.
over. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
would rather say it's not publish or perish. It's work hard, play hard.
debatable. We'll get some more insight
Yeah.
on this. But anyway, yeah, all the links will be in the description box. Please check it. Please subscribe to the channel. Please follow our Twitter and Facebook group page wherever you are, and please give us a feedback because that's what helps us. Remember, this happened because you guys voted on the Twitter poll, and I'll see all of you guys around, and we'll stay in touch. Atul and Mustafa. And thank you, Srijit, and thank you, Ashwin, for helping. And we'll see you guys
Adarsh
later.
and
Okay.
Vinay, Adarsh and Vinay too.
Vinay, others,
Adarsh,
the whole team,
Anisha,
everybody.
and the alumni, Mohali Alumni Association, and the members in the board of directors. We
Yep.
also thank them and the faculty at Mohali who helped us to organize things like that before, and we have constant encouraging support from their side.
Yep. So stay tuned. We'll come back soon.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. It was a pleasure. Cheers.
Cheers.